I'm going to blow this up so everybody can see it. Is that good? Can everybody see this? Okay, I assume somebody would tell me if they could not. Okay, so your exam is next when? Next Tuesday. At what time? Anytime. From when to when? Okay, the beginning of the day, 12:01 a.m. to the end of the day at 11:59 p.m. You have 23 hours and 58 minutes. Somewhere in that 23 hours and 58 minutes, you need to find 60 minutes to complete the exam. Good? We will not meet that day. The reason we will not meet is if this is the only time during the day that you have free, you would take the exam at this time, right? So this is supposed to help you find time, not be punitive in any way. So if you have work or something that you've built your schedule entirely around, I get it. So we're not meeting as a class. That is your opportunity to do it, finish the exam. Yeah?
Is the test multiple choice or?
The test is multiple choice. True false. But I mean, true false is multiple choice, right? Small choices. Yeah, multiple choice. Here's the only thing that I want to tell you is as you complete it, I highly encourage you to save every answer. And here's the issue. If you lose internet connection or something happens, if you have saved the test along the way, I can tell exactly what's happened. I can look and see exactly how many minutes you were into it, what your time left should have been, and I can ask the tech guys to bring it all back up for you, okay? So if you save your questions, that makes it much easier for me to help you if something happens. Because I also understand that sometimes stuff happens. But if you save your work, I'm in a much better position to help you. Good? Okay. What can I do for you? Yeah.
I couldn't find what the two types of research were.
Okay, what are the two types of research here? What are we talking about? Yeah, Miles.
Isn't it like one was observing behavior and another one was like looking inside the brain?
Not necessarily. You're close. We could talk about field research. We could talk about lab research, right? Things that we do out in everyday life, or lab stuff where we have to bring people into the lab, right? We also have two different sort of approaches that we've talked about already. Correlations and experimental designs. Okay, so the other thing I do in my reviews is I will take a question and I will just go with it for a while. What is a correlation?
Kind of like not a specific pattern, but it normally tends to go in a trend, either down or up, or there could be no correlation where it's just like scattered. There could be like no relation to anybody's opinion.
Okay, so you said one word in there that I want you to say with them. Correlations mean, a correlation means
I don't know which word you wanted me to say.
relationships.
Relation.
You said relationship. Okay, correlation means relationship, right? That there is a known relationship that exists between these two variables, right? A positive correlation or negative correlation. Or you're right, we could have no correlation, meaning that these variables are not related to one another. Variable, remember, anything that varies, self-esteem, temperature of a room, political orientation, self-confidence, like anything that varies is a variable. Okay, so correlations can be positive or negative, much like you were mentioning. What does a positive correlation look like? What type of relationship do we have here in a positive correlation? Yeah.
As say am I able to use it in terms of a grid, or would that be bad?
You're giving me a narrative. Do it without the context of a grid.
Okay, like so for example, as one of I don't even know.
If you can visualize the grid, you can put it into words.
I know, but I'm trying to think of what I could use as the. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Okay, give me the general definition and then we'll get specific.
Okay, well, whatever one's positive, the other one's positive also. Like they kind of relate to each other in a positive manner. I don't know. It's constantly going up.
Okay, as a positive relationship? Okay. But positive correlations, those variables do what together? They rise together and they fall together. So a rise in one is associated with a rise in the other. A fall in one is associated with a fall in the other. Okay? Positive correlations, always together. Negative correlations, what do they look like? All right, as one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. As the other one goes up, the other one goes down. What do correlations not tell us? All right, causation, right? Correlation does not mean causation, right? So if we're going to talk about self-esteem and academic performance, two variables that are strongly correlated with one another. High self-esteem, that's what I said, right? High self-esteem and high academic performance are correlated with one another, right? But what are the possible explanations here for that relationship?
Your self-esteem is high because your grades are high, or your grades are high because your self-esteem is high.
Okay, good. So I have high self-esteem because I'm doing well in school, or I'm doing well in school because I have high self-esteem, right? When all we know are correlations, we don't know the causal connection between these two variables. Okay, so correlations, right? Then we segue into experiments. Why do we run experiments? What do they allow us to do that correlations do not? Yeah. Okay, more specifically?
We can like test, like if we have a correlation or whatever, we can actually like test it to see if that correlation is actually true.
Okay, good. So with experiments, we are getting at the idea of cause and effect. All right, what are some of the key components of an experiment? Very basic experiment. Okay, control group, which is part of what? The independent variable, right? The independent variable, and did you say dependent variable as well?
Well, I mean, they're not, they doesn't go to.
Yeah, but you said both, right? Yeah, I wasn't like trying to. So what is the independent variable? We'll do that one first, and then we'll go to the dependent variable. What's the independent variable? Who's talking? The variable what? Okay, good. The variable that is manipulated. The independent variable is the variable that is under the control of the researcher. So think back to chapter 1 when we talked about examining whether or not violent television causes aggression in kids. And that very basic experiment we designed, what was our independent variable?
Was it what they watched on television?
All right, the type of television they watched, right? Some kids watched violent television and some kids watched non-violent television. Okay? So the independent variable is the variable that is under the control of the researcher. It is what he or she manipulates. So what's the dependent variable then?
How they act because of it.
Okay, the variable that we believe will be impacted by our manipulation, right? So back to the violent television condition, what was our dependent variable? All right, aggression, right? Aggressive play in kids. So there, our thoughts, right? Our prediction, our hypothesis was that violent television causes aggression in kids. We manipulated the type of television that kids watched, and the variable that we thought would be impacted by that manipulation was levels of aggression, right? Number of aggressive acts by kids. So independent variable, what we manipulate. Dependent variable, what we think will be impacted by the manipulation that we have done. Let's talk about one more key component. Why do we not want to let kids just self-select into these different conditions?
Because it's not random.
What's the problem with not being random?
It doesn't, I guess not, it doesn't make it fair, it doesn't make it a true experiment because there's bias in it.
Okay, good. So it's going to introduce some bias into our study here. So what do? How do we get kids into these different conditions? Or people, college students, into the different conditions in our experiment?
You kind of take one from each different area and you pick them out randomly.
Okay. Random selection is how we move from the population to the sample, right? So random selection has to do with the population, the entire group of people that we're interested in. Can we ever really have an entire population? No. What do we get instead?
Like a small group with like each kind of section.
Okay. Sample. Good. What does that sample need to do? Represent the entire population. When I have a sample that represents the entire population, we've done a lot already, huh? When I have a sample that represents the entire population, I can make inferences back from my small sample to the entire population. So random selection is how I get, okay, now I know why I'm talking about this. Random selection is how we move from the population to the sample. Once I have my sample, random assignment is how I get them from the sample into the different conditions that are part of my experiment. With me? I feel like I've knocked out quite a bit of stuff. Okay, next. Yeah.
We won't have to like label parts of the brain or anything like that. Just know kind of what they are used for and the general location.
Yes. Are you asking if we're going to do like a...
Like there's not going to be a picture of a brain with like A, B, C, and D. What?
No. No, I won't do that to you. But I will expect you, if I ask you what, one of the brain sections does, that you'll be able to tell me that. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to play like pin the cerebellum on the brain or something.
Information processing theory.
Okay. That one you can just scratch. Okay, so here's the deal, right? When I make some of these things before I finalize the exam, I have things that I will talk about, and I have things that I plan on talking about but have decided not to. Information processing model, you can scrap it. This guy right here. Yes?
The correlation method, the strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, so every research design is going to have strengths and weaknesses associated with it. And we've already talked about some of the weaknesses with correlation. The biggest weakness being that when we have a correlation, we still don't know the causal connection between the variables, right? But the strength with correlation is there may be variables that we are interested in studying that we simply cannot study with an experimental design. What are those types of variables? Just give me an example of that. What can I not manipulate? Age. I can't make you 20. I can't make you 80. Gender. I can't give you a different gender other than the one you have. Is that it? Race, ethnicity? Right. Okay, so socioeconomic background. These things we might be interested in, but we can't study as an experiment. We can study them in a correlation, though. So it gives us the chance to study things that we're interested in that we can't study with a traditional experimental design. What else? Miles.
Sociocultural approach.
Okay, sociocultural approach. What is the sociocultural approach? Right here. What are we talking about?
Focuses on the relationship between social behavior and culture.
Okay, it looks at the relationship between social behavior and culture. The sociocultural approach looks at the impact of environment here, right? And how we differ as a result of the culture in which we grow up. We'll do a lot of this stuff later when we talk about social psychology. I'm a social psychologist. We look a lot at how we are impacted by other people and how we impact other people. Did you ask that, Miles? Did you ask me that? Okay. Good? What else? Yeah.
Biological psychology.
Okay, biological psychologists. What are biological psychologists looking at? Okay, biology of the brain and how it does what? How it works, how it impacts those things in psychology that we're interested in, such as feelings, thought processes, behavior, right? So it looks at the relationship between biology and a corresponding psychological interests. Is that good?
Generalizability.
All right, generalizability. Right? Generalizability has to do with when we can extend the results of our study further. We talked about generalizability as one of the big limitations with case studies. Right? So what's a case study? Okay, we focus on an individual at great length. Right? Every design comes with strengths and every design comes with weaknesses. So the strength of the case studies, we're going to get a lot of information. Right? We're going to get a lot of information about this particular person. But one of the limitations, one of the drawbacks of the case study is that it may not be generalizable. Right? We know a lot about this person, but what this person has experienced may not generalize to everybody. You with me? So generalization is our ability to take what we've learned and apply it broadly. Mhm. Everybody signed?
No.
Who's the no? Oh, you guys. Okay, what else?
So capital incentive.
Yes.
Do we have to know the specific areas of specialization? Or is it kind of like one that's like name all the
Of psychology?
Yeah.
I want you to be able to, if I give you a situation that this individual in their laboratory looks at how brain damage in certain parts of rats impacts corresponding behaviors. Like, you know. What type of psychologist would do that? Biopsychologist? What type of psychologist would look at things like why human beings develop behavioral tendencies the way that we did and how it impacts survival? Survival. Evolutionary psychology? Remember that one? So, yes. The types of question I'd give you would give you like a little quick vignette of what this person does, and you would tell me what type of psychologist they are.
Major processes at work in the developing brain on the second page.
You can ask this too. Yeah.
Did we go through the 3 types of neurons?
Okay, what are the 3 types of neurons? Yeah.
The dendrite, soma, and axon?
Those are the components or parts of a neuron. Okay? So before we go there, let's do this real fast and then we'll move to the types. What do the dendrites, you're all right. What do the dendrites do in a neuron? Right, they're going to receive messages. What type of message do they receive? How does it work? How do neurons speak to one another? Neurotransmitters, right? Okay, so the dendrite receives the messages. What does the soma do? Keeps it alive, right? And then what? What's the third part? What do the axons do? Okay, carries information out, right? 2 other neurons. Good? Okay, so the 3 types of neurons. What are our 3 types of neurons?
Sensory, motor, interneuron.
Say louder and slower.
Sensory, motor, and interneuron.
Okay, good. Sensory, motor, and interneuron. Good? What else?
Hindbrain, midbrain, and forebrain, and it basically describes them.
We talked about the parts as a whole. I mean,
Okay, so not,
yeah.
Okay.
It's this. Hindbrain,
This is like the
midbrain,
general.
forebrain.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you go back over the functions of the left and the right hemispheres?
Oh, sure. Okay, so what are the functions of the left hemisphere? Okay. Language, math, writing. How do we learn about a lot of the specialization with the hemispheres? We'll talk about hemisphere specialization, right? Okay. How do we learn about? Oh, sorry. Okay, and the right side. Okay. Emotional expressions, recognition of spatial patterns. Can it speak? No. Which side speaks? So again, how did we learn a lot about the specialization of the hemispheres?
The video of that guy.
The video of that guy.
Yeah, where like if you could see out of his eyes and was able to see what he saw with his right eye, but he can only draw with his left hand what he saw with his other.
Okay. All right. What happened to that person? There's a split brain, right? Split brain patient. What do they do? What makes a person a split brain patient? What has happened to them? Okay, they cut that thingy. What is that thingy that they cut? Corpus callosum, right? Corpus callosum connects the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. It is how they communicate with one another. Your right half of your body is moved by which hemisphere? Left. Your right hemisphere moves your left. Okay. And all passes through corpus callosum. What else?
What is the parathyroid gland do?
I just want the thyroid. Don't worry about the parathyroid. So this one too. That one. I just went with the thyroid gland. What does the thyroid gland do? Yeah. All right. Metabolism. Good.
The sleep cycles, you asked how many are an average. Is there like a certain number we should know?
Is it
Or
90
90
minutes?
minutes, I knew that.
It's about 90 minutes to complete one cycle.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted
Because you
like
said
a,
how many
how many.
So how many on average night then?
Because like a
All right.
11 minutes.
How many hours of sleep does a typical person need? 8. 7 to 9. 8. Okay. It varies. Miles.
What is it? I forget what it's called, but like you said when you're in the room, your body goes back to like a 25-hour cycle. Do we need to know that?
That's for your information. He was talking about when we are not exposed to the sun, our bodies fall back into a 25-hour cycle. You should. It's interesting.
Interested in your question.
What else?
Vernix area.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wernicke's, right? German, so the W's sound like V's. Wernicke's area. What happens in Wernicke's area? Comprehension of speech. So what is Wernicke's aphasia?
When you can understand what people are saying and you know what you want to say, but it won't come out right.
Okay. So what is Broca's area? Okay. So what's Broca's aphasia? What is Broca's aphasia?
Can't speak smoothly anymore.
Okay, can't speak smoothly anymore, right? Damage that results, things that we see as a result of damage to that specific area. Well,
I think that's what you said, Broca's area too.
all right. What does Broca's area do?
The ability to speak.
All right, speech production. What else? Yeah.
We go for structuralism because the book only says that its definition is focused on the basic elements of the mind, but didn't tell me like the elements of it.
Okay. Well, here's the deal, right? Structuralism was all about, it was heavily influenced by chemistry. And it kind of makes sense, right? When you think about chemistry, like the basic elements. So chemistry was becoming more and more popular, and structuralism took that idea of basic elements into the world of psychology. Could we sort of come to a basic understanding of the sort of basic psychological elements that make up experiences? So it's hard to say what they were, and this is like what killed structuralism, is that everybody was fighting over what those basic things were. Nobody could agree on what they were, right? It wasn't as easy as it is in chemistry to figure out what these basic elements are. So it was kind of killed itself.
part in it at all, right? It just goes from wherever on your body to your spinal cord and then back.
Spinal cord makes the decision. Yep, happens really fast.
Okay.
Yep. So that's what, like when they tap your knee and stuff, that's what they're testing to make sure you still have that sort of reflexive response. Yeah.
For the drugs that affect neurotransmitters, I didn't know what opiates were, like narcotics maybe, that's what I thought.
What are opiates? Heroin.
Yeah, okay.
So how do they operate? What do they impact? What neurotransmitter? Endorphins. Right? So use of heroin, what does your body do eventually with endorphins? It stops producing. Endorphin production decreases when people use things like heroin, right? Again, that sort of pain associated with withdrawal, that's the reason why. Their body's no longer producing these endorphins because they artificially gave it to it with heroin. Say it again. That's another thing I cut when I was talking about it, right? Don't worry about it. We didn't talk about it. Yeah.
Double blind technique.
Okay. Double blind techniques. In double blind techniques, what they have done is this is common in like things like medical research. Okay, where the doctor or nurse who is giving the person involved in the clinical trial a drug. The doctor or nurse does not know if this person is part of the control group or the placebo group. I mean, the experimental group or the control group that would receive a placebo, a sugar pill. Okay. Why do we do this? Because it helps get rid of experimenter bias that we see, right? Where maybe if I know I'm giving you the drug, I start to see signs of improvement that don't really exist, right? And if you, that's a single blind. But in the double blind study, you as somebody who's enrolled in this project, you don't know either whether you are receiving the drug or the placebo. That way, we are sort of eliminating things, okay? You don't know if you're getting the drug. I don't know if you're getting the drug. Here we're trying to always eliminate bias. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So with the single blind one, is it the person getting the drug doesn't know? Or
Well,
the
it
person
depends on
giving
which side you're on. Yeah, I mean, usually the person should never know if they're receiving the drug, right? But that's where we see things like the placebo effect, where they believe they're receiving the drug, and all of a sudden they start showing signs of improvement, despite the fact that they're taking a sugar pill that's not doing anything to them. Did you hear that?
No, I was scratching my brain.
Yeah.
Activation, synthesis, theory of dreaming.
Okay, activation synthesis theory of dreaming. What's happening in activation synthesis theory for why it is that we dream? What?
Oh, you said the like avoid predators and things like that. That was like, is that the wrong thing?
Different theory.
Oh,
You said activation synthesis theory of why we dream, right?
oh, is that?
Okay, so activation. Now I question whether I heard the question right. Activation synthesis theory of dreaming. Why do we dream according to this theory? What's happening? What?
For our brains to process it.
Okay. But what happens as we sleep? What is still active? Yeah.
I'm guessing like your brain is still active, so it has to like make sense of like what's going on.
Okay. Okay, good. So the brainstem is still being activated. So the cortex may be receiving messages. And according to the activation synthesis theory, it's receiving these messages and it's putting everything together, right? It's trying to make sense of the different bits of information that it's receiving. And what it is putting together ultimately becomes our dream. Why did Freud say we dreamed? We dream.
It's what we subconsciously think about during the day.
Okay, so here we go. Freud's ideas, right? We have manifest content and we have latent content. What is the manifest content according to Freud's theory for why we dream? Okay, the actual content of the dream, right? Literally what happens in the dream. So what's the latent content aspect of the dream? The latent content of the dream? Okay, the hidden message, right? So the manifest is literally like what we see, what we do, the things we are encountering in our dreams. The latent idea is that these things that we encounter represent something, right? And that's the true meaning behind the dreams. What do these things we encounter, what do they truly represent?
We're talking about Freud, right?
We're talking about what?
We're talking about Freud.
Yeah, Freud.
We want to be deep down inside, like our deep down desires.
Okay, good. So it's sort of unconscious desires, right?
The somatosensory cortex.
Pronounce it again.
The somatosensory.
Somatosensory cortex? Okay, what does the somatosensory cortex do?
Neurons run in front of parietal lobe responsible for processing info from skin and internal body receptors.
Okay, say it louder. The last part. What is responsible for processing?
Processing info from skin and internal body receptors.
The process senses.
Skin and internal body receptors. Did I show you the kind of bizarre looking graph of how it looks? I didn't show you that. Okay. Right. It's like an upside down person. No? Okay. Yeah.
The circadian sleep, I know that the circadian rhythm is a 24-hour period, but is this, what would the theory of sleep?
The cyclical aspect of it. That everything moves like the sort of rhythm of life type stuff. Yeah.
Theory of dissociated control under hypnosis.
Okay, so dissociative control. There was a couple ideas that we talked about with things that happen. Ideas about what happens to us during a hypnotic session, right? So what were the two theories that we talked about? What's this dissociative idea? Yeah.
It only works in a person's immediate consciousness.
Okay, so it only works in this sort of immediate consciousness. The same sort of thing that we experience while driving to work or school or whatever, and we're surprised that we're already there, right? You're performing the act of driving, but that sort of immediate consciousness isn't there. But that theory says that there is some hidden observer that is still sort of attuned to what it is that we were doing. So somebody asked, could we murder somebody under hypnosis, right? And the idea is, no, you can't, right? Because there's some hidden observer that's not going to allow you to do something like that. What was the other idea of why hypnosis works? Is that good?
Yeah.
So what's the other theory for why hypnosis works? Yes? Okay, that we're simply playing the role, right? That we have developed this expectation for what it's like when people are under hypnosis. So this is how we behave, and then we sort of just play that part. We're the actor, the actress fulfilling that role.
So the theory would have that. Well, it says it twice though. Like it says this. See, it's like theory, then it says the theory of the control. So like, would the control part be like why you can't kill someone in like is that like? Do you see what I mean?
Oh yeah, dissociative control is that there is somebody
so
still
that's
there.
What
Yeah.
that part would be. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like this is the part that's like it works like
The hidden observer.
part of your consciousness, but the other one is like this is
What else?
you can't kill someone. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference between controlled substances and illicit substances.
Okay. Remind me your name?
Josh.
Josh. Okay. So what's the difference between controlled substances and illicit substances? Yeah.
Control substance is something that the doctor would give you. Illicit would be like heroin or something like that.
Okay. So I don't recall specifying this in the lecture. That was something else that. So this is the problem when I have to give you a study guide before I finalize what I do. But it's okay. There's not that much that I take out. Controlled being those things that can be prescribed to you, and illicit being those things that are illegal. But can controlled substances be illegal? Under what situations? Yeah, if it's not prescribed to you, you can't have it. Okay. clear that up before you start telling the police officer, well, my general psychology professor told me. What else? Yeah. What's somnambulism? All right, sleepwalking. So what do some people do while they're sleepwalking? Eat, make sandwiches. I didn't talk about this one. You can kill this one too. Yeah, I didn't talk about it. And I didn't use these terms. I just used the overarching term of sleep disorders. I didn't specify them for you. Yeah.
What were the benefits of meditation?
I cut out meditation at all. I cut out the entire meditation stuff. Stress relief is like the big thing with meditation. All right, restorative theory of sleep. What does the restorative theory say about why it is that we sleep?
It's our body's chance to heal from
Okay.
daily life.
Good. So during the day, we're hard on our bodies, and when we sleep, it provides our body the chance to sort of replenish itself. So your mom or your dad that said, recharge the batteries or whatever. Kind of that basic idea. Yeah, Josh.
Role of the suprachiasmatic nucleus?
Suprachiasmatic nucleus. What does the suprachiasmatic nucleus release? That tells us you're sleepy. Melatonin, right? Suprachiasmatic nucleus is responsible for releasing melatonin.
Is that in the neuron?
It's in your brain.
Is
That-
it floating around in the brain? Like, is it part of the neuron or?
It's a structure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Suprachiasmatic nucleus. These psychology words that you trip over. I had to give a presentation in Vancouver, Canada on this work that I was doing on intentativity. Like that's how you say the word, intentativity. And it was like this room full of people. Intentativity sounds easy right now. Do it in a room full of people and all of a sudden it becomes a really difficult word to say. Yeah.
So the evolutionary theory of dreaming, is that we develop to sleep at night to
Yeah. To keep us safe against things that attack us in the night. That term is actually going away in popularity and is being used by another term. The term that I actually used in class is a term that is becoming more and more common in its usage. Adaptive theory, yeah. Yeah.
Can you go over what the different scans do, like the MRI, the fMRI? What's the difference?
Okay, so the difference tends to be the clarity that you would get with the images. So with an EEG, you are looking at the electrical activity on the surface of the brain. Right? So it's giving you the images that look more like this, right? CAT scans give you an image of the brain, but they don't provide very clear image for the structure of the brain. MRIs can give you very clear pictures of the structure of the brain and what part of the brain is being used or activated at that particular moment in time. The fMRI is that functional MRI, and what it does is it uses various snapshots of the brain, and it can put them together into almost like a movie sequence, so you can see different things going on. PET scan also gives you a structure of the brain, but it's not as clear as MRIs are. Mm-hmm. You guys hot? Is it hot in here?
I mean, I suck.
It's hotter in the hallway though.
Yeah, I think it's the windows, like the sun beating in the windows, if I had to guess. But that doesn't explain the hotness of this room. Yeah.
What are the different kinds of hallucinations? Like I was thinking
You could have auditory hallucinations. So hearing things that aren't there. You could have visual hallucinations. So seeing things that aren't really there. So people can report like tactile hallucinations, like they feel something that's not there. Yeah.
It just cuts off, like, not cuts off, but like it just says hallucinations. Well, we need to know just like the definition or like all of the different types. Because in our notes there's more stuff after
Yeah, you should be prepared to know. Like,
that stuff too.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What hallucinogens do?
Yeah.
There's a pretty good clue, like in the title. Hallucinations.
Oh.
Hallucinogens produce hallucinations.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Effects of aging on sleep?
What happens to us as we get older?
You sleep less.
We sleep less. Right? So you've had the best sleep that you'll probably ever have. Consecutively, you might get a really good night's sleep later. But the best sleep you've ever had, it's behind you. So as we get older, we sleep less and less. Right? Older individuals, I think on average, report about 6 hours of sleep a night. Yeah.
Is this still an issue if you sleep like over 10 hours at like when you're around in your like mid to early 20s?
An issue for
Is it just a cause for concern? Cause like I have this issue, I sleep a whole lot, like I normally go for 10, 12 hours of sleep a day. So
it's cause for me to be jealous. I don't think it has. No, I haven't heard that like sleeping too much is associated.
I heard that sleeping too much can actually make you more tired. Like you have to kind of have a middle ground.
Is that what you're asking?
yeah, I'm like
Okay,
wondering if
okay.
it has like any negative effects on the body.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because you kind of stay asleep and then your body is so used to being asleep that it just actually wears it down. After sleeping too much.
So I've been doing this.
So
since
I thought you
was,
meant
like,
if you're doing it in waves and cycles, then maybe like there might be something going on. But I mean, if you've routinely slept, people vary in the amount of sleep that they need, right? Some people need a lot more sleep than other people, and some people don't need that much sleep. So there's always, individual variation in people. But I'm not. If you've routinely slept like that, I assume you could see like like a sleep specialist if you were really concerned. But I don't know if it would indicate there's like an underlying issue. Unless it's like you've never done it before and all of a sudden you're doing it, then you might want to see.
No, this has been going on since I was like 16, so.
10 hours.
It's not as good as it sounds, honestly. Like I wish I didn't sleep this much, but this is just.
It really isn't. You actually get more tired. It makes you more tired. I notice whenever I wake up earlier, I'm actually more alert.
Anecdotes are not evidence.
Huh?
Anecdotes are not evidence. They're very powerful, but they're not always evidence. Case in point, last night's Republican debate. Who watched the Republican debate last night? Okay, so during the Republican debate, we had an exchange between Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson, a neurologist, neurosurgeon. And Donald Trump made the statement that vaccines cause autism. And Dr. Carson said there is no evidence linking vaccinations to autism. Dr. Carson said that because there's not any evidence linking these things. So Donald Trump says, yes, there is. I've seen it myself. He said an employee of mine Their little baby, their little kid, got vaccinated, and a week later had autism. And Dr. Carson said, that's just not true. But so a lot of times anecdotes for people become very powerful and very persuasive, despite the fact that they have nothing to do with base rate information, right? But those sort of vivid things that we can visualize that's being said to us is incredibly powerful on people. Mr. Trump's wrong. Right? The doctor on stage is right. And so was the other doctor who followed it up by saying, vaccinations are the best thing we have for combating and eradicating diseases. I'll leave the debate there.
That made me so mad.
What else for exam 1?
The peripheral nervous system.
All right, the peripheral nervous system. What does it do for us? Let's do the central first, then we'll go to peripheral. What's the central nervous system? All right, brain and spinal cord, right? And then we move out to the peripheral nervous system. What is it? Okay, all the other nerves that run throughout, right? What does the peripheral system do for us?
It sends and receives information that goes to your brain and then back out.
Okay, good. So it's communicating with the central nervous system. So what's the somatic nervous system?
Controls your skeletal muscles.
What's that?
Controls your skeletal muscles.
Okay, which means what?
Movement.
Okay, under your control,
Oh,
right? Voluntary. Good. All right, so what does the autonomic nervous system do? Right. Breathing, so the involuntary actions that we take. Digestion, all this stuff. Who asked the question? I can't remember who asked that thing. Okay. Is that good? Okay, sorry. No? All right. What else? You're feeling confident? You're feeling good? Now you're just hot? It's really hot in here. I am here for you. Yes?
How many questions are there?
50. 50 total, you'll have 60 minutes.
And it's just on D2.
Yep, just on D2O. We can do that here. So on D2L, hit assessments, quizzes, hit what you want to hit, quizzes, and it's right there, exam 1. Open September 22nd at midnight, 12:01 in the morning, and closes September 22nd at 11:59 p.m. 60 minutes.
Can you go back to the top of the study guide so I can see what all was crossed off? Please?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me quickly scan it too.
That's true.
This one here, I didn't mark it, but we talked about it. Okay, that was it. Is there anything else I can help you with? I'm not going to stare at you until 15 after 3. So if you are finished with me, I will let you go. But I don't have to leave. I can stay with you. If you have more questions, I am happy to sit here and talk with you. You making a call? You're making the call for the class?
I don't have anything else for like to ask. I pay attention in class.
Everyone feels confident until they find out they shouldn't have felt confident.
Yeah, that's normally how it is on tests.
That first one to feel it out. All right, so Tuesday, we will not meet as a class. Okay, I will not be here. I will be on campus Tuesday. If you need me for some reason, I will be in my office, Morgan 313. But I will not be in this classroom. Okay? If you need me for anything, I will be there for you. You can email me. Don't call the office. If you email me, well, you can call like usual time to see if I'm there. But if you leave a message, I won't get it till the next day. So if you need something from me like right away, email me. Okay? Here's the deal. If you are unsure of your internet connection, you need to use a really good internet connection. If you wait till starting at 11 p.m. at night and you email me at 11:30 and expect a response from me, you're not going to get it till the next day. Okay? So you can it is your right to take it at 11, but do keep in mind that if you need me for whatever reason, I may not be there at that time to be there for you. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Good luck. Don't forget to study. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you a week from today.